Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Together We Battle podcast. And welcome back to the Roots of Growth series. Hello, Nancy.
Jessica, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
I am so excited. We are on week 11 already. I cannot get over how quickly this is going. But those of you that this is your first time hearing this, welcome. We're ecstatic to have you with us. Also, know there are 10 other episodes before this. So if you are feeling like you need a little extra time right now or something really helpful to listen to, short spiritual practices, they can be applied to everyday life. This is your series. So go ahead back and find episodes 1 through 10. Let's do a quick recap of week 10, which was lighting a candle.
Right. It's essentially about being aware and taking the time that's all you're doing in the moment, lighting a candle. And it's a time of year where we often use many candles. And I mentioned, I think, about 7 different ways to use a candle. There's more than that, so just, whatever works for you, but it's about taking the few extra seconds to be aware of either striking the match or getting a lighter and watching the flame. You'll notice that the flame is smaller, rises up, and then comes back down a bit. Just pay attention.
Yeah,
And
pay
then we
attention.
talked also about metaphorical ways of lighting up a
Yeah.
life. So an easy one is just a smile.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to hear that full episode, you can go back and do so. But today for week 11, we are going to focus on Statio. So, Nancy, can you tell us what that means and how we can practice that?
So statio is actually a Latin word for statin, position, or watch. And it comes from an old monastic practice born centuries ago. And in our era, it calls us, it's kind of like a mindfulness type prayer. In short, it's about taking a pause between tasks, and it allows one to take a breath. And even if the task isn't completed and you need to move from this to that, it allows you that space to either give thanks for what has been accomplished or to ask for presence in what is going to be coming next. So it's about a pause. You can think about the task that's just been completed and turn thoughts to the next one. And it's in this small space between tasks that we can turn our souls to gaze, to really attend to the present moment. And it's only in this present moment, only in the here and now, that we're able to connect with the divine. The past is the past, the future is not yet, but in this moment. So statio is actually meant as give us space and time to center, to ground ourselves, to become conscious, fully present to either the divine or true nature or the the task that something has been completed to a certain point and something will be beginning. So we can be present, for instance, to the garden before cutting the flower that we're going to bring in. We can be present to the ingredients for dinner that are set out on the counter before we begin the creation of a meal. We can be present to a partner as someone walks in the room. It's an act of communion. It's strengthening that relationship. So think about doing that when you come home with your children. Usually it's just a rush, 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 rush. But take that minute to just be present to that person. It's a holy pause. That's another way to think about it. We give space for the transcendent, something that's bigger than us, in ordinary life to be experienced through finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. That, and another phrase that a professor of mine used, the miraculous in the mundane and the sacred in the profane. I want to say that again because it's kind of fun, right? In this holy pause, we give space for the transcendent in ordinary life to be experienced through finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, the miraculous in the mundane, and the sacred in the profane. And we find examples of pausing all around us. Musicians change keys. They don't do it abruptly. They move from one to the other through that process called modulation. The seasons of the year, we're heading now into winter. And there's this period of ups and downs as if nature herself isn't yet quite ready to shift gears. And children grow in spurts. They don't grow continuously. There's a stopping between that, right? So Statio invites us to shift gears in a different way, one that tends to sweep away some of the clutter, the frustration, the stress, because we're just attending to that moment. And life won't be so frenetically abrupt if we try to enter this practice of being present. So Statio is something that slows you down a little, not a lot. And I would suggest to someone, give it a try for several weeks, but go easy on yourself. So if you forget, if you find yourself rushing from one task to another, it's okay. Just let it go. What we have is every moment of now. The key to success, I believe, is to identify the nooks and crannies of your life that are good opportunities for this practice. So consider things like this: arriving just a little early to meetings and events. This time of year, get a coat off, change your shoes if that's what you bring with you. You don't want to slog through slush and snow in high heels. Arrive a couple of minutes early. You could use a bathroom or hanging up a coat as this place for this statio. You could walk slowly outside to appreciate nature. So just slow down for a couple of minutes, see what's around you. You can pause at the beginning and the end of car travel. So you get in your car, you take that 1 minute, aware of where you're going, or you've come back, and just between that space between. You could pause between chores. You could practice this when you wait in line. You could pause just before or after the first bite of a meal and just be present to that time. You could pause after brushing your teeth. You could pause after you put your shoes on. Find one thing and try that for a while. So it's kind of like a mnemonic for this is stop. Stop what you're doing for a minute. S-T. Take a breath. A nice deep breath. They're calming. To be present to your body and your heart and your mind, your soul. O is observe. Gaze. Recollect yourself. Just be present to what's in front of you. Gazing is a really lovely word. And if you want, P, you could pray or just hold this up to true nature, the divine, God, whatever language or ideas work for you. So it's a really simple practice. The holy pause, right? Statio. Stop. Take a breath, because that's also another lovely reminder. That's what I'm doing here. Observe. Just watch whatever it is you're doing. It could be putting your toothbrush away, holding it, looking at it. They help keep our mouths healthy. Then put it away and then pray. You can give thanks. You could just hold whatever it is. That you could do a number of different things, but you can see the idea is to find some little place somewhere in your life to practice that. And if it works, add another.
I love that one. That one is so good. So I've heard you say a couple things, and I would love to give just one, like my mom hat went on for a moment in this one
Uh-huh.
specifically. And I wanted to share just as a mom that I find the electronics are like a thing for all kids now. And what I noticed over the last few years of school, if they are playing a game or they are engulfed in their electronics and I need them quickly to change to another activity, such as homework or cleaning up their room or anything changing gears, it's a struggle to do it as quickly as I want them to do it. So I found that if I can get them unengaged from their electronics and give them 5 minutes just to for us to pause. Just maybe it's a little snuggle on the couch or it's a hug in the hallway as they're moving to the next thing. If we can pause and it stops their brain from being so engulfed by the electronic, they're much more focused when they get to the next thing that we need them to do.
That's exactly right. We're dealing with an awareness practice, right? If you take that space between things, and with children, that's a fantastic thing. I found, for instance, if my children came home from school wound up in what other way, shape, or form, often I would just stand with them, sometimes a hug, depends on where they were, if you know what I mean, emotionally, and get them to breathe with me, because short, shallow breathing is associated with anxiety. Slow, deep breathing is calming. So if I could get them to breathe with me for a little and then launch into what had them wound up, we were much better able to communicate. And I was much better able to get them in a place where they could speak without massive amounts of anxiety. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to this during the holiday season, I think that's a great example of kids right now are ready to be out of school. They want to be on Christmas break. They want Santa to come. They want all the things that it has to do with the holidays. And it's just a good reminder that, and ladies listening to this, I know you're thinking, I don't have time for that. You do. Because the thing is if you make it an awareness practice for yourself to pause, you will see that your day, as full as it is, will go much more smoothly for you personally. And when you, as the mom, the wife, the boss, the whatever labels and hats you wear, as full as your day is, if you can take a break and you stay more calm, everybody around you is going to stay more calm as well.
Right. A piece of it is calm, and another piece literally has to do with how your brain functions. I just watched a YouTube video on that, a TED Talk, I think, how moving from one activity to another, even when we think we're multitasking, actually taxes part of our brain more so. These old monastic folk had the right idea. Their day was set by bells, literally. And so from this time to this time, they did prayer. From this time to this time, they ate. From this time to this time, they did work. This time to this time, they rested. And it was all set. It wasn't trying to get something accomplished, so to speak, but to work on something. And that capacity to move from one thing to the next in a way that is calming. So not that we're going to have you do something like this all day long. I would suggest you pick one or two areas where you think this would be the most helpful and give it a try.
Yeah.
And give yourself grace if it doesn't happen. You can try again the next time.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And those of you that are going to utilize this practice, or if you have, you're hearing this later on and you have used this practice, please let us know. We would love to hear from you, and we'd love to share anything that's worked for you out with the community, because that is really the purpose of this, is to share as a resource so that people have it when they need it. Thank you for joining us for this week's Roots of Growth. We hope today's practice gave you a pause, a breath, a gentle rooting in what truly matters. Don't forget to try this week's practice and share on social media with the hashtag Roots of Growth. So Nancy, before we move on, let's give a quick intro or on what week 12 will be.
I'm looking at a practice called press the pause button. This is a time of year when, especially as a parent, it's really easy to flip your lid kind of thing. And There is a practice about breathing, acknowledging, choosing, and kicking into action. So, back, we'll talk a little bit more about it, that you can engage when you feel this coming up.
We all need it. I can't wait. So, thank you for joining us for week 11. And if you haven't already, go back and start from week 1. We'll see you next week.
Bye.